There it is. Welcome back, everybody. Zach the Ripper Comics here, and here with our third live stream, we are going to do the reviews and reactions to WWE Friday Night Smackdown that aired tonight, Friday the 13th. Now, they had not advertised anything for this show as of just earlier today. In fact, the only thing newsworthy that was on their website was the fact that Zelina Vega, someone whom I've touted for quite some time here on Zach the Ripper Comics as being one of the key players of this year's pandemic time period. She was on every single show, working her ass off, tweeted earlier today that she believed in unionization. Well, a couple hours later, WWE responded, as they always have to this, and they fired her. Zelina Vega is no longer employed by WWE. Big oof. Anthony Ushak in the chat. I agree. I agree. Big oof on her part. She should have known better. Anybody should know better getting into the professional wrestling business, and not just wrestling in general. As far as WWE, they've made their model. Their model is legal. You're not going to beat them in any way whatsoever. And what people need to realize, and for instance, I was telling my brother earlier that there's an excellent documentary on the WWE network about Paul Bearer called The Mortician. What people need to understand is that WWE does take care of these talents when there's injuries and things like that. In 2004, when they wanted to bring Paul Bearer back, he voiced his concerns that he felt he needed to lose weight to get the lap band surgery. And WWE said, okay, that's fine. We will sign you and give you a $35,000 signing bonus so that you can go get your surgery, get it completely taken care of, because we care about the human being and we want the human being to be okay before they do anything within the WWE world. So big kudos to them on that. Also, this week was Veterans Day week. I want to give a shout out to my brother Aaron. Thank you for being a veteran. Thank you for doing what you've done and what you do and have done is what I'm trying to say. Thank you to fellow friend Jarek Rivers. I very much appreciate that. To everybody out there. My father, who served as well, and he is also a veteran. And speaking of my father, today is my father's birthday, Friday the 13th. Happy birthday, Dad. I love you here at Zach the Ripper Comics. The last news piece that I wanted to get into before going in depth into SmackDown was that we found out that Tribute to the Troops is returning this year. This is something that I've always been proud of being a wrestling fan. When they do this, they used to go overseas to the Middle East for specific base shows for just the troops, and then they would air it on U.S. television. The last few years that they did this, 2012, 13, 14, they basically they basically were going to U.S. bases in a more auditorium atmosphere to put on these shows because it was so dangerous to go overseas. No word yet on exactly what this one's going to be, but with the pandemic worldwide, I would assume that they're just going to do another in-house in the Thunderdome in Orlando taping of sorts. Anthony Ushak with the $1 super chat. Didn't say anything, just donated $1. You don't have to do that, bro, but I very much appreciate it. Jarek Rivers, thanks for the shout out, dude. No problem, man. Thank you for what you did and continue to do. I very much appreciate that, as does everybody else who has a platform like YouTube to be free and voice themselves to an extent. Good old jockstrap. I agree. I agree. Jarek, if you're not familiar, WWE does, and this is what I was just talking about, their Tribute to the Troops show, where they used to go overseas to the Middle East during the Afghanistan and Iraq and Iran wars, and they would put on shows specifically for the troops, and then they would air it on U.S. television over the Christmas break. They were then doing them in U.S. on bases. What's your thought as a veteran on WWE doing this type of things for the military, where they're putting on shows just for the guys and gals that don't get to enjoy all the freedoms like we are right now once, because they're in there and in the thick of it and fighting for us? Andrew Vinoy is here. Good old Andrew. Andrew, Thank you for coming, bud. Andrew and I go way back. He was a high school friend of mine, whom I still obviously talk to, and he's joined the chat. Thank you. My brother Aaron's in here. Aaron, I gave you a shout out. Happy Veterans Day the other day, and thank you for doing everything you've done and continue to do. For those of you that have just joined, a couple news bits I want to go over real quick. Zelina Vega, someone I've touted tremendously on Zach the Ripper Comics all year long, was released earlier today after she tweeted that she supports unionization. For everybody that doesn't know, WWE is not a union, and the contracted wrestlers are independent contractors. They are not employees of WWE, so they do not get benefits and they do not get health insurance. However, when someone is injured under WWE's watch, WWE does pay all of the medical bills. I think anything that can help the troops relax and take their minds off of the craziness can really help. I completely agree. Totally agree. So let's get into some Smackdown. Overall, right off the bat, I want to let you know that I thought Smackdown tonight had a lot of opportunities, but again, it's a C show, and I mean that in a positive way, that there's a lot of things that I feel like if you switch out a couple different performers here and there, that it could be an A show easily. There's a lot of talent that they have in places where the talent's not going to succeed, and there's a lot of awesome ideas that they're putting on talent that never has a chance of succeeding. So we started things off with the Universal Champion Roman Reigns coming out with Paul Heyman in tow. Roman declares that the professional wrestling ring is the island of relevancy because he is making everybody relevant, that no one mattered until they came face to face with Roman Reigns. This brings out Raw superstar Drew McIntyre. Now remember, we just had the draft a month ago, and we set everybody up on their separate shows, and they're not supposed to interact unless it's at a pay-per-view where both brands are there. But here comes Drew McIntyre, Raw superstar. He just says, hey, I was strolling by and I heard you mention that you're the best, that nobody was relevant, that you're looking forward to fighting Randy Orton next Sunday at the pay-per-view. Roman Reigns thanks Drew McIntyre for coming, says he's a huge Drew McIntyre fan. Obviously, this is a put on, but basically this leads to Jey Uso coming out. Jey Uso gets right in Drew McIntyre's face because we know that Jey Uso has been fighting back against Roman over the last couple months, and now he's been forced by losing the Hell in a Cell match to fall in line and listen to what the tribal chief says. When people disrespect Roman, Jey is now starting to actually take it personally, take it to heart, and he felt that Drew McIntyre was disrespecting Roman Reigns. So Jey gets in Drew's face. This sets up a matchup, our main event for later in the evening between Raw superstar Drew McIntyre and SmackDown superstar Jey Uso. Backstage, Roman lets Jey know that if he does not handle this business tonight against Drew McIntyre, there will be hell to pay. Personally, Jey assures him that Roman has nothing to worry about when it comes to the matchup with Drew this evening. Let me just switch over to the chat real quick. I agree. They do have a lot of talent right now, but the problem that they seem to be doing is they're not letting the talent get trained enough in the Performance Center or NXT or whatever you want to call any of it, or they have this really good talent that they're just putting the worst crap writing on. If they could just reverse a couple of the things, I think we'd be looking at a resurgence in professional wrestling when it comes to North American professional wrestling right now. Aaron Connor with the super chat, 99 cents. Thank you. Again, no message, but I do appreciate it very much. Thank you. You don't have to do that. Let's get back to SmackDown. So a few minutes before SmackDown went on the air, I got an email from WWE, a blast email that they send everybody. And it announced an Intercontinental Championship match taking place between champion Sami Zayn and challenger Apollo Crews. Now, if you did not know Apollo Crews was on SmackDown, you wouldn't be the only one, because he was drafted in the secondary online draft, the supplemental draft from Raw after he had been in a major storyline with MVP in the Hurt Business all year long. He's a United States champion, was defending it at SummerSlam, and since being drafted to SmackDown, he has not been on television once. So here we are now, and he's challenging for the Intercontinental Championship. Why? There was nothing that led to this match. What reason am I supposed to care about this match other than the fact that the title's on the line? And that this is a time-old story that they do where they put the belt on a guy to make the guy instead of the guy making the belt. The match was okay, very creative finish as Sami Zayn was on the outside of the ring. Apollo Crews slid out to get him. He pulled the ring apron out. Apollo Crews goes through it, and then Sami Zayn tied Apollo's boots to the ropes, so Apollo was counted out. I'm pretty sure if the ref saw all this, it should have been a disqualification rather than a count out, but the execution of it was actually pretty creative. Otherwise, who cares? Sami Zayn's going to have a champion versus champion match next week at Survivor Series against the Hurt Business's U.S. champion, Bobby Lashley. Can't message with only 99 cents. I did not know that. I didn't know that. Love the thumbnail for this live stream. Live stream. Let's talk about this thumbnail, okay? People wonder why today's talent isn't over, that they're not at that Undertaker level, right? The thumbnail for this video has Sasha Banks doing the Undertaker's pose, trying to put her eyes back, trying to stick her tongue out. What is this for? We have Jeff Hardy on the WWE.com website posing as Undertaker. I understand what it's actually for. They're paying tribute to the dead man because Survivor Series is going to have his final farewell. I get all that. But in reality of creating new stars, when did Undertaker come out in 1998 during the Attitude Era dressed up as Corporal Kirshner? When did The Undertaker come out as the American Badass, acting like the immortal Hulk Hogan? Never. Undertaker was always Undertaker. That's why he's lasted and why he's a legend. Stop having today's talent look like marks, look like annoying little ingrate fans dressing up, playing dress up in their costumes as their favorite WWE superstars. This makes them seem as less than to me. I don't look up to any of these people. I look down on them for being 40 and dressing up like The Undertaker when you were employed by WWE yourself and not making your own legacy. Stupid. That's why I did the thumbnail. Yeah, exactly, standing there like a stick. That's what she is. What do we have here? Speaking of Sasha Banks, she comes out, cuts a promo, says that she's really happy because she finally won a championship and defended it. Last week, I said that she never actually defends the belt. She loses it immediately. And I didn't actually think that this would be the storyline moving forward, that she's thankful that she finally defended a belt once. Dumb, right? Really dumb. Bayley comes out. We think this is going to continue more so. Luckily, it doesn't because Carmella super kicks the champion's head off, leaving her laying for the second week in a row. I'm not the biggest Carmella fan, but at least Carmella versus Sasha Banks is something fresh. Okay, backstage, we have Otis. A couple weeks ago, I said that I was actually into Otis as a character and as a performer because he's a fat guy that acts fat. And I still am. I'm cool with that. He's not like Kevin Owens, who weighs 427 pounds, trying to cover it up with his jeans and his shirts, looking like an idiot. He knows he's fat. And like Dusty Rhodes always said, if you're fat, the people know you're fat. So just be fat and be the fattest in the room. I have no issue with that. He's backstage. He's eating all this food. He's got 3 plates in his hand, whatever they were. Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode walk up to him. They make fun of him, and it leads to a match. This is exactly what happened last year, right before the Christmas special, where Otis was backstage eating food. Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode walk up to him. They make fun of him. It leads to a match. And a year later, we're doing the exact same thing. What the fuck? Stupid. Otis wins the match, and then following the match, Chad Gable a guy who finally went back to his actual name of Chad Gable, a guy that should be main eventing. And you might think I'm crazy for that, but let the guy produce in the ring. Let the guy just be himself, and you have another Kurt Angle on your hands. It seems like they're holding him back so much. Just let him be him. Hopefully, this following statement, this little program actually gets him in a better spot. So he walks up to Otis and says, Otis, you're out of weight, you're fat, you're ugly, you're stupid, all of these things. I think you need to join the Alpha Academy with Chad Gable as your mentor. This could be just comedy fodder that nobody ends up caring about, or this could be a launching pad for Chad Gable and perhaps something a little bit different for Otis, even though it still pertains to his weight. You live for the Kevin Owens hate. I wouldn't say I hate him, but it is what it is. Mr. Ooh La La, I've started watching again. How do you think the Survivor Series is shaping up? Mr. Ooh La La, thank you for joining the chat. I appreciate it. Anthony Ushak is actually a huge fan of yours, as I'm sure he's saying throughout the chat right now. I think Survivor Series is shaping up to be pretty decent. Again, I'm not through with the SmackDown results so far. But I mean, you have Team Raw versus Team SmackDown as far as Raw, as far as the men and the women. Excuse me. I don't like that we're still doing the brand split as the reason why people fight at Survivor Series. I think it was so much. I was just talking to Chris Wilde of Eagles News Now about this the other night. I think it was so much better, so easier to get into and care about when it was teams of 4 or 5, I don't care which one, that came together for a common purpose to take on another team. Now, I know that's what this is. It's Raw and SmackDown. So the common purpose is your TV show that you perform on. I just think that's horrible and a stupid common purpose. So, and we used to have cool nicknames. We had the Vipers, the Warriors, the 4x4s, like all kinds of stuff. The Dream Team. Really cool names for all the Survivor Series teams back in the day. And I think that was just a better way to go about it. However, I do think that entertainment and match quality wise, that Survivor Series is shaping up to be pretty good. The men's and women's Survivor Series matches are probably going to be really decent. If they go Lashley Zayn, I've seen it a million times, so I don't care about it. But will it be bad? Probably not. Uh, New Day versus Street Profits, tag champs versus tag champs. I believe that's a first time ever matchup, so that in itself is interesting, especially when you add in the fact that the both baby faces. Sasha Banks versus Asuka, Raw champion versus Women's champion, or versus SmackDown champion. I apologize. Don't really care about it when it comes to the characters, but it'll be a decent match. So again, still no stinkers yet. The Women's Survivor Series Raw versus SmackDown match. Again, hate the reason that they're doing it, but it should be entertaining. And then you have Orton versus Reigns, WWE Champion versus Universal Champion. If that match happens, you know it's going to be an amazing match. Both of these guys are fantastic performers. If for some reason they switch the belt from Randy to Drew this coming Monday on Raw in the title match, then Drew versus Roman, I'm sorry, is going to be good as it was good at WrestleMania 35, was it? So I do think it's a shaping up to be a really good card so far. It's just a matter of, is it going to be entertaining? Is it going to feel like Survivor Series? And that's what I want out of it. I'm a little bit behind in the chat, so let me just go up. Zach Spitting Facts, Anthony Ushak, $2 super chat. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Always with the facts. Can we go back to the day when wrestlers were wrestlers and not superstars? Unfortunately, you can't. They have started saying wrestling, ing, on WWE lately, so that's a good sign, I hope. That is legit, Mr. Ooh La La. It is indeed. I agree. Three decades, for sure. Yeah, Sasha Banks, I believe, is in, or at least in a few episodes this entire season. Season 2, I believe it is. Sorry, let me just adjust this. Take a sip. A little bit. A little bit of that. Ugh. Speaking of Yarny and the dual sense back there, I do have a Zack the Ripper Comics, official Zack the Ripper Comics PlayStation 5 unboxing. It's processing right now as we speak. That'll be up on YouTube either later tonight or early tomorrow morning. So be looking out for that. It's going to have all the complexities that you'd expect from this channel. And yes, I did say complexities. Polar Lime streaming. Yes, Polar Lime streaming. Indeed. All right, back to SmackDown. So in the final chapter, or so they say, Seth Rollins takes on Rey Mysterio. This is a program that we've grown tired of over the course of Zack the Ripper Comics. When this channel started, I said that this was an interesting storyline and it should be culminating soon. Fast forward to now, and they're saying it's just now ending tonight on Friday the 13th, SmackDown, the final chapter. And in this match, Seth Rollins again went to poke out the second eye of Rey Mysterio. This led to Dominic Mysterio hitting the ring. Rollins kicked his ass. And then Murphy hit the ring. Murphy looked like he was going to help Rollins, help the savior of SmackDown. He turned on him, which he's already done a month ago, but we're doing the same thing again. I don't understand it. So then Rey takes advantage of that, hits a frog splash, 1, 2, 3. It's all over. But before Murphy can leave, Rey Mysterio says that he proved that he's part of the family and he appreciates him. He extends his hand. Here comes Dominic. Here comes whatever the mom's name is. And here comes Aaliyah. And everybody's happy. And Murphy is a part of the family. Rey Mysterio has okayed a 32-year-old man, a professional wrestler, dating his 19-year-old daughter. I know this is a storyline, but that's a little weird, especially when your programming is towards the middle age group of kids to late 30s. He's a 32-year-old man dating a 19-year-old girl. I'm curious what your thoughts are, chat, please. And if you're watching this after the fact, leave a comment below based on what you think this is. How you feel about this. I don't know. It just sits uneasy with me. I do not need bigger shirts. Kevin Owens absolutely can advise me on getting bigger shirts. He knows where to find them. My hair's getting wild here. What do we have? Tell me about the eye gimmick, please. What eye gimmick? Chris Hansen enters the chat. Chris Hansen, what's up, buddy? Kevin Owens shirts come with built-in bibs. You win the internet. The Real News New England. How old was Steph when the test storyline happened? I do not know offhand. We want to look it up. So, Stephanie is 44 right now. That storyline was 1999. So she was 23 when that happened with Triple H, and Triple H was 29 at the time. So 29 and 23 versus 32 and 19. Real News New England, welcome to the chat, by the way. It's the first time I've seen your name. Welcome here. That was the Attitude Era. Not much of a difference. Maybe. I don't know. To me, maybe it's the fact that Steph was portrayed as older. I don't know. But like real life, Aaliyah's 19 and real life Murphy's 32. So I know she's legal. It just seems odd. Maybe because we watched her grow up on WWE television. It felt like yesterday CM Punk was singing happy birthday to her. So it's very interesting. All right, so back to SmackDown. So again, we had Natalya going up to WWE official Adam Pearce and demanding that she be put on the Survivor Series team. Just last week, he offered her a spot, and she said, "Do not patronize me. I want to compete in the match." She lost the match. That was her second time trying to advance for the Survivor Series team. This week, she says that he should be offering her that spot again, and he says no, but he will put her in a match that was already scheduled to be a three-way match during the debuting Chelsea Green, former DCW superstar, against Liv Morgan from the Riot Squad, and her tag team partner Ruby Riott has already advanced, against Tamina Snuka, who after 10 years of being employed there has not gotten any better. I feel bad when I see her in the ring because she just doesn't get it and doesn't have a clue. Like, I understand it was in her blood. Her father was Superfly Jimmy Snuka, who Zack the Ripper Comics has competed against, but it's just not her. And she did it most likely for the pay and notoriety. That's all cool, but she's just not any good. And Natalya. So we have this four-way match in which Liv Morgan goes on to win by pinning Natalya. We go backstage. Big E is again doing some kind of weird gaming stuff with stagehands, probably little ant writers, and he's beating them for money. Like, I guess that's his gimmick now. He was a badass. He beat Sheamus in that last man standing match, and now he's just doing these dumb backstage skits. The Street Profits, I lost their name for a second. That's how much they just don't matter. The Street Profits roll up, and they're facing Big E's brethren, the New Day, at Survivor Series in the Raw Tag Champs versus SmackDown Tag Champs match. Neither belt's on the line. Nothing matters. So they, again, want to just kind of dig in that the New Day is going to be losers, and who cares? They walk away. Big E walks away. What are we doing here? Like, what are we accomplishing by doing this with Big E? We bring in Drew McIntyre from Raw to have a spot in the main event with Jey Uso when you have a SmackDown wrestler already on SmackDown who's a big guy and who can handle main events. Dumb. Real dumb. Back to the chat. Thank you, Mr. Ulala. Good night. Sasha is doing that face, but it's supposed to be Undertaker's face. Last time the tag titles mattered, like, I think the last time they actually mattered is when the first brand split happened. Because for a full year, the tag champions were, not for a full year, I'm sorry. For the first month of the draft, the tag champions were officially just on SmackDown. And then they moved them to Raw, and they had the split of the two belts for the first time for the Raw Tag Champs and the SmackDown Tag Champs. And I think that was the last time that they truly mattered, because that's when the brand split truly mattered. And you had separate writing teams and separate creatives and everything else. Once they did the first bringing the brands back together is when I think they just stopped mattering. Yeah. So in the main event of SmackDown, Drew McIntyre, Raw superstar, if I haven't mentioned that already, went up against Jey Uso. And I was actually excited for this because this match, to my knowledge, in modern era, hasn't happened with these two guys in an over scale like they are now. I thought the matchup itself was excellent. When Drew starts to mount his comeback against the healing Jey Uso, Roman Reigns again walks down the ramp to be a distraction, as he has for Jey Uso recently. But Jey lets Roman know that he does not need his help. He's going to do it on his own. And as he turns around, he walks right into Drew McIntyre's finishing kick, right to the face. 1, 2, 3. Drew McIntyre wins. He and Roman Reigns go face to face at the end of SmackDown. Drew saying, "Next week, this will be you and I, blah, blah, blah." Roman says he'll see him Sunday. I think the entire story of this show, concerning the Universal Championship and the run-in with Drew, I think it was all really well done. The matchup was fantastic. Everybody was really good on the microphone. It just didn't need to happen. I understand you're building Raw versus SmackDown, but keep Drew over there. If anything, let Randy come over since he's a champion. That actually makes sense to me that he would be allowed since he's a champion. But why Drew? And I know you needed a baby face. Well, you have Big E there. There's just a couple things they could have done differently and gotten a better rating from me out of the show. And I know, who am I? Well, I'm Zach the Ripper Comics. That's who the hell I am. And what I say matters. Well, so my brother Aaron says he feels like the tag belts didn't matter once the three dudes held them. I'm assuming you're talking about the New Day. Kind of defeats the purpose of a tag team. And I understand what you're saying, but back in the 70s and 80s, there was the Freebirds with Michael Hayes, and they started what was called the Freebird rule, where there was a three-man trifecta. There wasn't groups and factions back then. They were like the first to have a group. And the rule was, since they all were considered and licensed as a tag team, that they could, all three of them, defend the tag belts at any given time. WWE did this with Demolition for a short period, and it's been done here and there throughout time. New Day are the ones that really, really brought it back and made it a relevant thing again. I don't have so much a problem with that as I do just the belts going back and forth. And as we saw at the draft this year, the New Day were the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. The Street Profits were the Raw Tag Champs, and they literally got drafted to opposite brands. So instead of making things interesting by having the Raw Champs on a SmackDown show, they literally just handed each other shows belts. A show shouldn't have belts. A company should have championships. Big difference. Real News New England, Roman looks horrible. So what looks horrible about Roman? I'm just curious because everybody seems to be touting his physique and everything right now. Drew does look awesome. I agree. Post leukemia. Yeah, he looks pretty good. His beard, his body. I don't know. I think Roman looks fantastic. The last two pay-per-views he's wrestled with no shirt on, and his upper body looks the best it's ever been in his career. Usually Roman's been a smaller guy, muscle-wise and everything, since coming to the WWE. But he's the biggest he's ever been. He's carrying the most muscle right now. And I actually think it looks befitting of a guy who's touted to be the tribal chief, touted to be the big dog, touted to be like the guy. I always think the guy should be larger than life or have a character that's larger than life. Again, for anybody that's just joining, a couple of the news segments we went over tonight. Zelina Vega posted on Twitter earlier today that she supported unionization. A couple hours later, we found out on WWE.com that she was terminated. So Zelina Vega, bye. Shouldn't have opened your mouth, unfortunately, when it comes to stuff like that. You're 1099. It is what it is. Sorry to see you go, though. I supported you here at Zach the Ripper Comics. We liked all of your matches. Good luck in your future endeavors. I want to say thank you and happy Veterans Day to those of you that are in the chat that will eventually watch this video that have served or will serve. I very much appreciate it. It's because of you guys that someone like me, a professional wrestler, comic book collector, video game enthusiast, Zach the Ripper Comics, is able to come onto a platform like YouTube in the United States and broadcast around the world. You guys afford me those, and I appreciate that. Also, happy birthday to my dad, father of Zach the Ripper Comics. I miss you. I love you. Can't wait to see you again soon. Real News New England, they did. Okay. Well, that's the thing. That's everybody's big argument right now. Real News New England said she's fired for an opinion. Those vets fought so we can have free speech. I 100% agree with that. But even free speech on something like a platform like YouTube, I'm still limited with what I can and cannot say. The pandemic that we've gone through this year, the C word that's attached to it, I'm not allowed to say that. So every genre of business is going to have cautionaries on what you can and can't do. When it comes to WWE, when you sign your contract as a performer, as a talent, you waive all rights to unionization, and you're not allowed to talk about it. And she did, unfortunately. Yeah, she said she supported unionization was her exact word. And that's been an argument in professional wrestling for a long time. It's why Jesse Ventura, the former Jesse the Body, the former Jesse the Mind, former the Governor, it's why he initially left the WWF back in the 80s, because he said we should unionize. He told Hulk Hogan told Vince, so Vince knew about it. And then when Jesse said, hey, I'm going to unionize, he was cut. And when he said, Hulk, I thought we were in this together, Hulk said he had no idea what Jesse was talking about. So obviously he played Jesse like a fool to Vince McMahon. This kind of stuff happens every 10 or so years. These guys and girls get a bug up their ass and they want to unionize or at least talk about it. And the moment they say those words, done. I'll tell you this, I've worked for retail companies, major retail companies here in the United States, and they tell you during your orientation that if you mention unionizing, you can be held accountable up to and including termination. So it's not just pro wrestling. Do I think it's overboard to terminate somebody just for saying that? Yes, but do I understand why they did it? Absolutely. And I wish her the best. I really liked her. I have seen some of the stuff that Sami Zayn posts on Twitter, and that's where is it a double negative? I won't go into it for anybody watching here. You're free to follow Sami Zayn on Twitter to see what he says, but a lot of religious, a lot of political, a lot of negative stuff towards the United States. So how can we do one thing but not do the other? I agree. Is it double negative? Maybe. So look, we are 37 minutes in. I have some stuff to do. I want to get that PlayStation 5 unboxing video uploaded for you guys to enjoy. I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. I have some patrons in here. If you're interested in checking out my stuff, it's patreon.com/Zach the Ripper Comics. If you become a patron and pledge and support to the show, you get content, early access to the content. I'm sorry, I blanked for a second. You can sometimes get early access to the content, and you also get free merchandise, t-shirts, stickers, hoodies, all kinds of stuff. Check that out. For everybody liking us on Facebook, finding us on Instagram, hitting up the eBay store for your comic book needs, the Joe Biden comic book will be up on the channel this week, up on the ebay.com store. And last but not least, going to the Teespring store, checking out the Zach the Ripper Comics merchandise, liking this video, hitting the little bell so you get all of the notifications when we go live, like here tonight, or when we put up videos like we are with the PlayStation 5 unboxing, and subscribing to the channel as it goes a long, long way. We're well over 1,000. We are heading to 2,000 now. That's the next goal. Let's hit 2,000 subscribers. So share this. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of Smackdown, what you think of Survivor Series and the current card that they're shaping up. Aaron Connor with the super chat. Great show. I want more. I very much appreciate it. You do not have to do that, but thank you very much. I appreciate the tip. That's what she said. Easy access. I agree. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Until next time.